Austin, Mr. William Kuko, who's this guy over there. His writing first came to my attention in my scholarship on Herman Melville. Mr. Kuko had performed a remarkable analysis of Herman Melville's early novel, Typee, in which he demonstrates that the text enacts a form of tattoo art through actually its rhythm, through its forms. It was a startling work of literary criticism. This attention to the performative impact of sound forms a natural connection to Kuko's own creative work. And it also leads organically to his recent collaboration with the music of Trout. So Trout is that man? Mr. Kuko and Trout performed together as artists for Forward Flux Productions of Seattle, a company devoted to presenting innovative projects that connect people with art in unexpected ways. Trout's most recent album, Axiom, is that right? It's Axiom, includes the track Lines, an instrumental piece that speaks to the potential for reciprocality between these artists. Mr. Kuko's analysis of Typee hears in Melville's lines the contours of oceanic tattoo, and he builds analogous impact into his own words. Conversely, the sounds of Trout's lines call out for lines of poetry. You can hear more of Trout's music at trout3.bandcamp.com. As for Mr. Kuko's literary works, I commend to your attention his American Sphinx cycle, 5 books that are beautifully produced by Tumoff Press. And they have a wonderful Japanese sensibility to them with the folded over end papers. It's just beautiful bookmaking and beautiful books. Emerson writes in Nature, "There sits the Sphinx at the roadside, and from age to age, as each prophet comes by, he tries his fortune at reading her riddle." Mr. Kuko's American Sphinx cycle gives us a prophecy for the current age. Mr. Kuko's works develop from enigma, from Zen-like riddles that give birth to propulsive narrative poetry. Steeped in both Japanese tradition and the American newness from Emerson onward, Kuko taps into the deep structures through which culture tells its tales. Kuko's stories revisit and recombine the big stories of our world and the little ones as well. His work invites curiosity about the poetic contours of the strange tales through which ourselves have been made and may be remade. One of Kuko's unique contributions is to discover the deep resonances between the languages of Buddhist inquiry and American literary questing, and to give voice to the unexpected possibilities that may follow. Kuko's work looks back to the writings of Irving, Melville, Poe, Dickinson, Twain, and far beyond back to the epic sources of Eastern and Western cultures. I want to call your attention to the image created for this evening's performance. I hope you saw this. It's based on the classic Rock of Ages tattoo. This is something that goes back to, the idea of Rock of Ages goes back to a hymn, first written in 1763, inspired by a man who was a survivor of a storm. About 100 years later, the painting was made inspired by that hymn, and the iconography of this tattoo derives from that 1860s painting. So we've got the 1800s, we've got the 1700s. And the Kuko twist here is that the entire image is circumscribed by another iconic tattoo, the Ouroboros tattoo, or the serpent devouring its tail. And so what we have here is a series of old traditions that's now being put in contact with an even older and more ancient tradition. As a description of this evening's performance puts it, Kuko makes the old new again. Here he makes the old image new by bringing it into contact with something even more ancient. Above all, Kuko's texts explore thoroughly, playfully, and powerfully the variegated potentialities of poetic narrative shared with living audiences. So please enjoy William Kuko with Trout as they tell tales, telling tales.
Thank you, Dr. Kevorkian. I'm honored. That was amazing. Very humbling. As he said, William Kuko, Trout. This is Kuko Tells Tales, Telling Tales, Part 3. In the 1500s, Spain would come to find what they would call New Spain. They didn't care that the land probably belonged to people before the Aztecs, that they came to conquer it for their homeland. By 1521, the Aztecs, the empire that had been there for thousands of years, gone. Rest in peace, my Aztec brothers. By the 1590s, these same Spanish had heard tales told of this fabled city, El Dorado. They said it lied to the north, so they went north. When they reached a certain land, they met another group of people called the Caddos. The Caddos referred to them constantly as Tejas. They referred to them so much as Tejas that they thought the land in which they now were upon was called Tejas, Texas. What it really meant was friend or ally. The Caddos were in a very advanced civilization. Farming, basket weaving, pottery, great statesmen. They were able to live next to the fearsome Comanche where no one else was. The Comanche themselves hindered the Spanish advancement. Hindered all advancement until white settlers arrived in the 1800s. I talk about how Texas gained its independence and the Comanche part in that in Kuko Tells Tales Part 2. I'm not going into that again tonight. But I am going to go to a gentleman by the name of John Neely Bryan in 1839 who came from Arkansas seeking his fame. John Neely Bryan came in to what was the top part of Texas and ran into the same group of Indians, the Caddos, that the Spanish had. He loved them a lot. Formed a good bond with them, thought they were great people, traded. They showed him all the respect in the world. They took him to a ford in the Trinity River, and he thought, this place is awesome. This is where I'm going to come back and start my occupation. He took what he'd made and went back to Arkansas to clear his debt. He bought more supplies and moved back into Texas. When he got back to the ford at the Trinity River, the Caddos were gone. Smallpox and treaties had removed them. So he scrambled to change directions of what he was going to do. He thought, okay, no more trading outposts. What should I do? Let's make a town. So he got a bunch of people together, and they got a town, and they started farming and came together. People noticed that Mr. Bryan had a slight peculiarity to him. He talked to an imaginary friend, a friend he named Dallas. He named the city after this imaginary friend. Mr. Bryan would be housed in an insane asylum down here, oddly enough, many years later, where he would die. But as Dallas grew, the city came together to figure out what it is they could do to make the city better. Well, what they hit upon was a lake. They thought, people really like lakes. They're good to look at. There's ducks, fishing, swimming, boating. It's just all around good time. And that's what they did. They created White Rock Lake. In the 1920s, on this lake, a group of teenagers, 2 boys, 2 girls, were out having fun, doing what teenagers do. During this fun merriment, they rocked the boat and they all fell in. Only 3 came back. 1 girl drowned. One night, a few years after this, a gentleman is driving down by White Rock Lake, and there's a girl walking along the side of the road in a white dress. He thinks this is odd. He's like, what is she doing here? So he pulls up, rolls down the window, asks her, where are you going? Do you need any help? She's like, she doesn't really answer him at first, but he's persistent. So she says, I'm trying to go home. He's like, well, get in, I'll take you. So she gets in the car, and he's like, where do you live? And she's like, well, I live down in South Gaston, down in South Dallas. And he's like, okay, give me the address. So she does. And to ease his anxiousness, she tells him, don't worry, I was on a boat with 3 of my friends. They're all fine, they can swim. So as he starts to drive home, the girl goes, do you mind if I sleep? I'm really tired. He's like, yeah, sure. So she passes out. He goes to the address, and he goes up to the door, and he knocks because he can't wake her up. She's just out cold. He knocks on the door, he waits, he knocks on the door again, and this old man answers. He's like, can I help you? He's like, yes sir, I have your daughter back in my car. And he's like, son, I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to get off my property before I fucking kill you. The guy's shocked. He's like, no, seriously, I have your daughter in my car. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you this again, son. Get off my lawn. My daughter died in the lake. She drowned like 3 years ago. You're going to leave now. Guy's like, okay, yes, sir. Goes back to his car. He's mad. Rightly so. He gets in the car. He throws open the door. He's just going to kill this girl, playing a joke on him, but she's not there. All that remains is a wet car seat, and the lady of the lake is born. Now, if you don't know who the lady of the lake is, we have to go back in time. King Arthur, England, Wales. There are 4 ladies of the lake. Not all of them are good. Not all of them are truly bad. But they had agendas. One gave him Excalibur. One gave him Lancelot. One would kill him. The one that raises Lancelot is the pivotal lady of the lake. Lancelot becomes the greatest knight in King Arthur's land, army, period. Lancelot's father and mother are part of Arthur's knights of the Round Table. They're fighting to protect Arthur's land, and they're overrun by his enemies. The nurse takes the young Lancelot and flees, but his father and his mother die. Before the nurse is slain, she stumbles to this lake, and a lady emerges out of it, wearing a white dress, the lady of the lake. She takes Lancelot and takes him into the lake with her and trains him. She raises him to be the best knight in the land. But to be the best knight in the land, you have to be a knight of the Round Table. So when he comes of age, she gets her entire retinue, dresses him all in white, even puts Lancelot in white, shining armor. He becomes the knight in shining armor. And they go to Camelot. This is where Arthur resides, Camelot. Arthur, seeing this crazy, magical, mystical train of people all clad in white coming towards his encampment, thinks, this is no good. I've got to go face this. So him and all his knights get up and they go out to face her. They ask her, what are you doing here? She's like, I want you to knight my son, Lancelot. And he laughs. He's like, well, before we can knight him, we have to, he has to pass a test. And she's like, test him then. And they do. Lancelot goes beyond anything anyone has ever seen before. He is literally the greatest knight they have ever seen. So much so, King Arthur himself actually knights him by his own hand. Not too long after this, the Lady of the Lake leaves. And a knight of foreign power, demon-like, comes in and takes Guinevere, his queen, and takes off. No one can stop her. No one can stop him. It's impossible. One knight goes to get her back, Lancelot. He rises up. He goes on the quest. But in order to get her, he has to do the one thing no other knight is willing to do, and that's to get in a cart pulled by a dwarf. It's the most humiliating thing the medieval world could possibly know. It's like shame beyond belief. Lancelot does this. No one can believe it. No one can believe that a knight can willingly put themselves in this cart. This is what he does. And this is how he wins her. Not only does he win her, but he wins her heart and her love. And they start the forbidden love affair that will end up, some odd years down the line, destroying Arthur's kingdom. Now, in order for Camelot to fall, Merlin, Arthur's second most famous person, Sorcerer Supreme, must be destroyed. So the Lady of the Lake goes to him to learn magic from him. Now, Merlin's greatest ability is to foresee the future. He can see into the future, so he knows that she's going to kill him. He knows that he's going to train her to kill him. And he does this. And she uses the spell that he teaches her to stuff him in a rock where he's trapped forever. Merlin's gone. Well, now the enemy rises up. Camelot and all the forces of King Arthur ride out. But he can't leave Camelot unguarded, so he leaves his nephew Mordred behind to safeguard it. Now Mordred in French means death. When King Arthur's over there fighting this new problem, Mordred takes Camelot for his very own. Arthur's like, oh my god, I've been betrayed. This is terrible. Well, Not only is he betrayed by Mordred, but he finds out that Lancelot and Guinevere are sleeping together. Gawain, the next best knight, fights Lancelot in Arthur's honor. Lancelot thrashes him soundly, but he leaves him alive and then leaves. Arthur, being the king that he is, gets up, has to go back home to fight Mordred for the right of Camelot again. Gawain rides first into battle because he's the best knight, right? He's the knight that you're supposed to be. He dies. Done. Arthur, the army, they're like, oh my god, we've lost. What are we going to do? King Arthur plows first right through all of Mordred's men and challenges Mordred to man-to-man combat. Mordred accepts. They're fighting. Arthur takes his spear, runs it right through Mordred, right through him. It's a killing blow. Mordred knows he's dying, and pulls himself down the spear to the very hilt of it, where he can go no further, where he's within striking distance of Arthur. Takes his sword right through the clavicle. It will kill Arthur. But Mordred's dead. Arthur's gained the day. He's lying on the field of battle, bleeding to death. Here comes the Lady of the Lake again. She takes Arthur. She takes him to Avalon. She takes him up to the Tor Gate, which is still there to this day if you go to Wales. And they disappear to come again when Arthur's needed. Now, if you come back to Dallas, Texas, November 1963, and your presidency is referred to as Camelot, and you're thought of as King Arthur, the last place on earth you want to be is where the Lady of the Lake resides, and this is the exact mistake JFK made. 2 magic bullets, King Arthur's dead again. If you know anything about Elm Street where he's shot, you can look through the tunnel. It looks very much like the Tor Gates you see in Wales. My entire family was there that day. My dad and my mother had skipped school, hoping to see him. They were very excited. My mom's older sister worked down there, and she'd run out to see him drive by. She thought, wow, so handsome, so beautiful. She was so happy. My mom's younger sister couldn't care less. She stayed in school. My grandfather, however, sat at the last light where Kennedy makes the turn before his life would end. I myself would be born in the hospital that Kennedy died at. But this will be a few years later. And I must now talk about Kuko family history to understand why it is that I am the way that I am. So in Kuko family history, boy meets girl, boy marries girl. 13 years later, boy girl have child. One, singular, male. Only one. This goes on for countless of generations until you reach Little William. Little William was born right near the beginning of my parents' relationship cycle, 7. I'm the mistake, William the mistake. How do I know I'm the mistake? Because the child that was supposed to be born was born 13 years later, as they were supposed to. When my parents first had me, they were very poor, extremely poor. My father was still in school trying to get his degree. And they lived with his parents in Dallas, in this house that I was conceived in and basically born in. It's a great house. My father, when he did graduate, could only get one job. It's the Austin State School here in Austin. And so they pack up and they move into this little tiny house. It's odd because John Neely Bryan is buried in the insane asylum graveyard, which is not too far from here, which my father was in charge of. Circles. My first memory of this house, I didn't have very many memories, but my very first one that I can totally recollect is I'm sleeping in bed, and all of a sudden something startles me, and I wake up. When I look up, I have a woman totally dressed in black right here at the side of my bed. I have another one at the foot of my bed. And then further by my door is the third one. She's totally uninterested in what's going on. But these two, they're really into it. I know that if I can't move or shout or anything, they're going to kill me, that I'm going to die. And the wall right next to my room is my parents. I know that if I can just get something and get one of them to come over, I'd be okay. But I can't even move. I look up at the one above me, my eyes open, I'm scared, and I look into her eyes and I realize something inside me snaps. And I scream out, "Mommy!" Nothing. I didn't do it. She didn't hear me. So I don't hesitate because I still have the ability to scream. I do it again. "Mommy!" I hear movement. Oh, I'm so happy I hear her moving. I hear her go down the hallway. I can hear her moving fast. She's angry. She flings open the door. She's like, "What? What do you want?" And I'm like, "Can't you see them? Can't you see them?" She's like, "See what? Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Stop it. Stop being annoying." She starts to close the door. I know if this door closes, I'm done for. My most pitiful voice I possibly can get. I'm like, "Mommy, please, please don't leave me. I'm scared." She stops. She's still angry. She opens the door. She's like, "Get up." I can't. I still can't move. So she angrily comes over to the bed. She reaches down to pick me up. And as she reaches down, I see the lady closest to me walk up to her and run her hand through her hair. My mom does not notice this at all. She picks me up. She's holding me. She's still mad. And she walks out the door. And as they're walking, the women are coming with us because they're still interested in me. But as she closes the door, that's it. They're gone. I do not dream from this point forward, like almost never. Like, it's weird. Now when I go to sleep, I just sleep. It's just how I am. Not too long after this occurrence, my mom wanted me to get a good education, put me in a Christian school. And I was there for a little while, doing what kids normally do. But one day she comes to pick me up, and I have two nuns sitting above me, hands on my shoulders. They're like, "Miss Kuko, we're sorry. Little William, he's no longer allowed to go here." She's like, "What are you talking about? I pay good money. He should be able to go here. I pay the things on time." They're like, "Yeah, sorry, Miss Kuko. Sometimes, it's not worth money. Little William has too much of the devil in him." And they sit me out. My mom doesn't take this for an answer. She stands up for me. She's a good mom. She's not gonna believe this. She fights for me. She fights for me hard. She still loses. On the way home that day, she's crying. It's the first time I see her cry. It won't be the last. In fact, it'll be the first in a long line of tears that I'll make her cry. And over time, I'll actually grow numb to it. When I hit high school, I'm like a rising athletic team. I have all the potential in the entire world, but I'm backsliding, man. I just don't care. I've lost any sort of drive, determination. Drugs are basically they're destroying me. I'm unrelenting. I'm stubborn. I'm a basic shithead. But I do manage to graduate. I do back in, and I do get out. And when I get out, my friend Max, he gets accepted to the Kansas City Arts Institute, home of Walt Disney, asked me if I want to go with him to the orientation up there. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like it'd be a good time, right?" So we decide to go. My father, knowing that I'm gonna go and there's not really much that he can say to stop me, pleads with me to go stop in Dallas to see his father, my grandfather. I don't want to do this, but I think, okay, we'll do it. I have Max with me, it should be no problem. Is seeing my grandfather, because he is a psychiatrist and he's really good at understanding human emotions and how we think and feel. He fought in World War II on the front lines of Germany. He was so good at keeping men's minds together from what was first considered shell shock in World War I. It was called battle fatigue in his time, and what's now known as PTSD. He had a really good capability of keeping his platoon in order so they could keep fighting. It didn't take his commanders long to realize that this guy would be better served back behind the lines helping people out. So they did. They moved him back. When one of the gentlemen that I met that had worked with my grandfather during this time, he said that someone that had walked in, he would know what was wrong with him physically by the time he got to his desk, and after a few minutes of conversation, would know what was wrong with him mentally. This is not the place that an 18-year-old total fuck up wants to be. This is not good. But like I said, I had Max. I thought, okay, this is good. I can handle this. Well, my grandparents, as it turns out, way smarter than either one of us. My grandmother comes in, separates Max from me completely. I'm left mano a mano with my grandfather, who is dying of cancer. Well, at least he has. He's going through, I can't think of the term right now. Chemo, thank you. He's going through chemo. And he was a big man when I was growing up. Played football, big. Now he's like a husk of a man. He's like skin with just draped over bone. There's almost nothing left to him. He has a hard time sitting up. His breath is labored. He makes me look him in the eyes. I totally don't want to, but I look him in the eyes as he asks. And he tells me, William, don't follow in your father's footsteps and do what I did. This is exactly what I was going to do. I was going to go into psychiatry because my dad was good at it, my grandfather was good at it, I figured I would be good at it. But my grandfather's telling me, no, don't do this. He's telling me to examine my life, to just don't follow in it, because he didn't want me to be like his own son where he was sad and miserable with his job. He wanted me to be different. He wanted me to be happy. He thumped me in my heart with his bony finger and he said, follow this, follow your heart. Then he makes me get him up. So I get him up and we walk over to his bookshelf, which is much like this. And he gets out a book and he just opens it and he looks at it. He loved books, like he loved them beyond belief. And he looks at it and he closes it and he looks back at me and he hands it to me and he says, William, I want you to read this book. And then he goes and he finds another one, does the exact same thing. He says, I want you to read this one too, but you promised me to read these books. I say, yes, I promise. So then I help him over to his dresser and he gives me and Max $500 each to go to Kansas City on. This is a lot of money back when this is taking place. And then he lets me go. I am super stoked to be out of here. I'm like, oh my God, this was horrible, you know. He's telling me all these crazy things I don't understand. Max and I get in the car and we go. What I didn't know was this would be the last time I'd ever see him alive. I'd ever speak with the man. Anyway, we go on up to Kansas City and we sit in the Art Institute and we're going through the opening lecture by the president, the commencement speech basically. And the president's asking if anyone has read Ovid's Metamorphosis. 2 people raised their hands, myself and Max. The president seems kind of shocked by this because he says it's kind of like a metaphor for life because we're always transforming. And after he finishes his speech, he makes a beeline right for our table. Starts with Max, asks him what he's going to do there. Max tells him what he studies, he's going to study art and this and that. And he's like, well, where did you learn about Ovid's Metamorphosis? And he goes, oh, William lent it to me. And so he turns his attention to me and he's like, oh, well, where did you learn about Ovid's Metamorphosis? And I go, oh, my grandfather gave it to me when I was growing up. He said it was a really important book, one of the most important in Western civilizations, and it was one of the 6 books Shakespeare used to write almost all of his plays on. And he's like, wow, your grandfather was a smart man. I laughed and I said, you had no idea. And then he turned and he goes, well, what are you doing here? And I laughed again and I said, nothing. I'm doing nothing here. And he's like, well, I can really hardly wait to see what you do. And I go, well, you're going to be waiting a long time because I'm literally doing nothing. Max and I finish. We come back down to Austin. When we arrive, my grandfather's condition is taking a turn for the worst. My father has left to come to Dallas to be with his dad, and my mom is at home alone, waiting for my return. I arrive on a Monday, and it's like Wednesday night, and I'm sitting on the phone late at night, maybe 2 in the morning, talking to a friend or a girlfriend, and my mother busts into the room. She's like, William, get up, we're going. I'm like, what are you talking about, we're going? She's like, your grandfather just died, we're going. It's like, what are you talking about? I've been on the phone the whole time. Dad and Grandma didn't call. What are you talking about? She's like, he came to me in a dream. Get up. I was like, he came to you in a dream? Are you kidding me? That's so stupid. Like, I just start ridiculing her because I think it's so dumb. She's not having it. She's persistent. She sticks on me, and I get up, and we get in the car, and we drive to Dallas. We arrive, and my father comes out of the house. He's shocked to see us there. And I figure, oh, it's going to be awesome. Dad's going to ask us why we're here. Grandfather's going to be fine, and my mom's going to be wrong. Well, it turns out my mom was completely right. I ate a bunch of crow, and I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, she really knew. How is this possible? So we now had time to kill, so I took one of the books and I went upstairs, which was my father's room, and I sat in this really comfortable chair and I read one of the books that my grandfather had given me. And this was a book about a young man growing up in a Christian world that didn't find the answers he was looking for in Christianity. And he went on to continue his life and realized that all of life was nothing, like literally nothing. This is how this book ends. And I closed it and I was like, what is he trying to tell me? Nothing. This is messed up. I was upset. Like I was physically I couldn't handle the message that I just got. And they had kept him in what was my great-grandmother's room downstairs before the funeral. So I went down there and he's laying there and I sit down and I want answers. Like I want answers bad. Because he's left me with nothing but answers at this point. But he's not moving, he's not speaking, he's not doing anything. He's dead. So I get up and I run my hand through his hair and I kiss him on the forehead and I leave. The funeral that would happen on that weekend was the first time I'd ever seen my father cry. Tears. He was visibly hurt. Everyone was crying this thing. One person wasn't crying this thing. And that was my grandmother. She was my rock. She was the rock of ages facing death. She was in the sea-swept storm, and she was standing strong. She was not going to show death how much she hurt her. She was proud, defiant. It was amazing, just amazing. Well, after the funeral, we come back down to Austin, and I continue in the cycle in which I am self-destruction. And my parents are getting tired of me. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not really doing anything. And they ask me, will I go live with my grandmother? And shockingly, I tell them, yes, I'll go live with my grandmother. I figure this will be a great escape. I'll get away from what's holding me down. I get to start afresh, start anew. But as any of you know, just when you move and you don't take care of the problems that you've already created, they just create themselves again in the new environment. This is exactly what would happen. When I moved up to Dallas, my grandmother did the one thing that no one ever thought about doing. She decided to become my friend. She read what I read. She listened to what I listened to. She watched what I watched. She would discuss it with me. Super smart. This was a woman that was educated in a time when women couldn't even vote. She spoke Greek, Latin, and French. She would teach me French when I was small. I just don't remember it. She was amazing. She was so good at befriending me that she also befriended all of my friends. So when my friend Nathan moves up, she's part of our group. It's like a bunch of 18-year-old crazy, wild, young boys and this 90-year-old woman. That's our posse. We're running around Dallas like this. It was bizarre, but she was so good at it. The house itself in Dallas was when you pulled up, and you didn't go through the front door like you did in these houses. You came in through what was the kitchen. Now you went into the kitchen, you had two choices. You could go into the dining room, which led to the living room where my grandmother was, or you could go into the side room, which led to where my grandfather was and what was my great-grandmother's room. Now my great-grandmother always scared me. She was a very scary old woman. When I was small, really small, I thought of her as death, basically. She smelled of death, she reeked of death, she looked like death. I was terrified. But my dad wanted her to have a chance to love me like he loved me, would always force me into her. I would cry, carry on, but they wouldn't have anything of it. They'd push me up to her. She'd take her skeleton hands and just put me into her chest, and I could smell her decaying breath as she was holding me in there. And she didn't deserve the fear that I showed her, but I couldn't help because this is how I saw it. And as soon as she would release me, I would run and hide. And my mom would come find me. She'd sit down and she'd try to console me, she'd try to do her job, and she'd tell me that this lady scared her too. This is not exactly what a little child wants to know, is that this woman that's protecting you from birth till now is also scared of the same woman that you are. She's scared of death as well. But anyway, that was my great-grandmother. I would come to terms with my great-grandmother with a bunch of acid one night in her room, alone, in the house by myself. I would just sit in there and I meditated it out. It was a really rough night, but I did it. Because how could I not come to love the woman that had produced my own grandmother? Just couldn't do it. But to go back into the house, when you come back from the living room, you would go up a set of stairs which would lead to my father's room. On the right was what Nathan and all my friends referred to as Leatherface's room. because it was an attic and you just open the door and it's literally like where Leatherface would reside, like hanging hooks and stuff. It was so creepy. We tried not to think about it every time we came home. We'd make a beeline into my room. And then there was this one other hallway that led into the bathroom. We were so scared of that hallway, it was poltergeist level scary, that we would take our military chairs to Leatherface than we would in this hallway. So every night we'd go out into the hallway, quickly make it to the bathroom, and then come back into the room. And that was the house that, the Kuko family had been in for some time. Well, my grandmother, trying to control the bomb bust that was my life, just trying to not really stop what I was doing, but just trying to get it contained, came up with an idea about how to get me going again. She knew that I was into tattoos. She was into tattoos. So she said, William, if you go to school, I'll pay for some tattoos. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Hell yeah, I'll totally do this. This is what I did. So I started to get tattooed. My grandmother she was super smart. Like, I just love her to death. So I started to come around a little bit. And she slowly started working on me. But at school, I would meet another one of my friends, is Kevin, who I end up traveling the world with. Kevin has always had the most amazing ability to find the absolute craziest house to live in the entire world. If there's something wrong with it and out of place, well, that's Kevin's house. He even has one to this day we call the Burrow. Well, in Dallas, he lived with this guy named Gary. Gary was an equal opportunity employer. He swung both ways. If he thought he had a chance of sleeping with you, whether you're a guy or a girl, he was going to do it. That was just Gary. That's who Kevin lived with. So Nathan and I one night went over to Kevin's place to hang out, and ended up that Gary and I were the only two that were hungry. So Gary was like, let's go eat. And I was like, fine, let's go. So we got in his BMW coupe, kind of like a hearse, a two-seater car, and we took off to go to Dan's Cafe in Lakewood. We get there and we decide to make ourselves a little hungrier, so we smoke a little pot, and then we walk into the cafe. What we were greeted with when we opened the door is it's just filled with African Americans. Now, this didn't bother us because we were always the minority wherever we went. What did bother us was there was a gentleman, a white Nazi skinhead, sitting at the bar amongst them with his Doc Martens on, his blue jeans, his white shirt with his suspenders, and a beer bottle sticking in his head, like lodged in his head. We couldn't tell if it was real or not, and we're high and we're starting to giggle and laugh, and everyone's silent. And we make a beeline for the only table that's open. And Gary's smart. He puts his back to the situation because he doesn't want to see it. I'm stuck looking at the skinhead at the bar, and we're like talking back and forth. He's like, do you think that's real? Do you think that's real? I'm like, I don't know if that's real. I don't know if that's real. It's fucked up. He's like, yeah, it's fucked up. And we're giggling. Everyone's listening to us. I mean, there's no way they can't listen to us. I'm like, I'm gonna get up and go look. I'm gonna get up and look, and like go to the bathroom. He's like, no, don't leave me. Don't leave me. I'm like, I'm leaving. Chill. So I get up and I walk towards the bathroom, and the skinhead is staring at me. He's like eyes of hate staring at me. And I'm just looking at him like I just don't care. And I'm looking at his head, and I'm looking at the bottle, Coors Light bottle, literally lodged in his brain. You can see the like white of the brain pan, and then all this like blood that's starting to conceal to it and hold it in place, and then just blood like down the side. It's real. I get into the bathroom, I close the door. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I take a deep breath, and I hear Gary, you dumb motherfucker! What the fuck is wrong with you? You have a beer bottle sticking out of your head. And I'm like, oh my God. I quickly make a beeline out of the bathroom. I get in between Gary and the skinhead who's now gotten up, and he's like finger in his face, like, oh, you stupid motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you. What the hell's wrong with you? Go find King Arthur and get that sword and stone removed from your head. I push him outside because by this time I'm figuring the cops are coming for sure. Dallas police are nothing to mess with. Door closes, and the insanity that was inside Dan's Cafe is just tranquility outside. We're like night and day difference. It's like unnerving. So we're making a fast beeline down to Gary's BMW because we're trying to get the hell out of here. And here comes Evil Vivian. Evil Vivian, we had a good Vivian too, but Evil Vivian was this girl that had unhealthy addiction to me. Like, she was a stalker beyond belief. She was so good at stalking me. It was incredible. she'd be able to find us no matter where we were within the city. Usually I had Kevin and Nathan to help shield me from her, so it wasn't that bad, and we just kind of hang out. But on this night, I had just Gary, and Gary saw an opportunity to possibly have a three-way, and he was all for this. Evil Vivian had, one night, when we were down in South Dallas, had managed to get past Nathan and Kevin both, and she sat on my lap, and she grabbed my face, and she held it in her hands. She looked me in the eyes, and she was like, do I ever have a chance with you? And before she even had a chance out of her mouth, I was like, no, 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 never, ever, 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 ever. She's like, so I have a chance. I was like, oh my God. So I pushed her up, I sat her down, and I was like, no, just please leave me alone, leave me alone. She wouldn't. This is the girl I'm now stuck with Gary in the car, because Gary won, and we're heading to White Rock Lake. So we pull up into the lake, and we get out, and we walk down to the edge of the dock. And we're sitting there, and we're smoking more pot, and this is the only thing that's really consoling me at this moment, because I have Evil Vivian there, just completely being annoying. Well, she gets up and decides to dance, like she's just dancing. There's no music, but she's dancing. And because she's dancing, the dock starts rocking back and forth, and it causes waves. And because of that, she falls into the water. Gary and I think this is the greatest thing ever. We just start laughing. Oh my God, just laughing. She comes up, there's no laughing matter here. She's doing like this terrible intimidation, like of a doggy paddle. She's struggling, and she screams out, I can't swim. I look at Gary, Gary looks at me. He's like, you know I can't swim. I'm like, fuck. So I get up, I dive in to go get her. I don't want to, but I'm not gonna let her drown. I'm down there, I get her. It's true what they talk about people that are drowning. Like, they really are uncontrollable. They don't listen, they're scared, they're panicked. She's all elbowing me, trying my best to keep her and me afloat. Finally, I get her calmed down, and I'm able to get her up into the air, and Gary reaches down and pulls her up. But he can't get me, so I have to swim around to the bank, get up, and walk back down to the dock. As I'm walking down, Evil Vivian comes running at me. She's got no clothes on, completely naked. She just slams into me, hugging me. She's like, oh, you're my white knight in shining armor. I go, no, I'm more of the knight in a cart. But no one got my Arthurian joke then. So I get her off me, and she's like, oh, you need to take your clothes off. You need to take your clothes off. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking my clothes off. And Gary's like, oh, yeah, you need to take your clothes off. Yeah. I'm like, Gary, no. He's like, well, you're not getting in my car. I was like, Gary, this is your problem for bringing us here? No, 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 no. So I'm just agitated. And I lay down at the dock and just look up at the stars. I wish my night were over. My night ends up actually at an IHOP, where Evil Vivian gets out of the car, still fully naked, with a parking lot full of frat boys. Not pretty. And it's me and Gary. Thank God they left us alone, but it was still a terrible night. A couple weeks after this moment, my grandmother, she sits me down. She's like, William, you need to go back to Austin and face whatever it is that you're running from. I'm like, what are you talking about, Grandma? I don't want to leave. She's like, you need to go back and face your demons, basically. I don't want to listen, but it's my grandmother, so I do. I trust her. I unfortunately would fail her, because I would just start back in the pattern of what I had before. I was William the Mistake, after all. But because of her, I was doing one thing that I hadn't before in this pattern, and that was going to school. And while I was at school this time, I met a man by the name of John Campion. He's the guy I refer to as my master. He basically saves my life. He sees what I'm doing, he sees that I'm creative, and I don't have any outlet for this creativity. I don't know how to handle it. He changes all that. He gets me focused. He gets me to clean up, and he gets me moving forward. And man, I'm on fire now. I'm back in school, I'm full throttle, I'm studying, I'm rising like a phoenix from its ashes. But as I'm rising, my grandmother, she's falling. Because without me there, she can't get anywhere. She can't drive, she can't get to the grocery store. She's basically a prisoner trapped in this house. So my father drives up to Dallas, and they agree to sell her house. In this moment, I realized how right my grandfather was, that all of life really is nothing. This house that had all this Kuko family history, the house that I was born in, the house that my great-grandmother and my grandfather both had died in, was now gone. Gone in an instant. It really had gone to nothing. It was now in my memory. And once I'm gone, it really well be gone. So it has gone to nothing. I finally learned the lesson that he tried to teach me so many years ago. Well, they moved my grandmother down to their house in Austin. They have this really big room set up for her. Like, you know, they're really excited to have her. Well, my grandmother, she doesn't want this room that they've given for her. They're kind of, my parents are a little put off and shocked. They can't understand, but my grandmother wants the one room, which is my room, more than anything. My room has not changed one lick since I was in high school. It still has Spider-Man posters, Cure posters, little Jesus Mary chain on the wall, all my books. This is where she chose to spend her life at, my room, because I was the last thing that she felt connected with. The funny thing about my grandmother coming back to Austin is that she was able to not only still be friends with me, but she got right back into my group of friends here in Austin as well. So she would ride around with us as well. One of my good friends here is Chris Trevino, who owns Perfection Tattoo. She loved Chris's tattoos. Like, she thought they were the most beautiful thing on the face of the planet. She just adored him. Well, at this time, Chris and I were really into Japanese tattooing, and I still kind of am into all this. And Chris had gotten a hold of this book called 100 Demons by Horiyoshi 3. Oh my God, we love this thing. Because we loved it, my grandma loved it. And she looked at it constantly, just with me. Like, we enjoyed all the pictures that we saw and knew the stories, and we would discuss it endlessly. Well, one day I come home from college, and there's a message on my answer machine. It's my grandmother. She tells me to come see her. It's my grandmother. I do as she says. So I come see her, and she goes, "William, how much would it cost to get tattooed by Horiyoshi?" I have no idea. So the last thing I'm thinking is I'm never going to get to go to Japan. I'm pretty poor and I'm in school. But she says, find out. Just find out for me. So I call Chris. Chris calls Ed Hardy. Chris calls me back. Gives me the number. Next thing I know, I'm on the phone with Horiyoshi himself. Horiyoshi tells me how much he charges, how much he thinks it would charge for a rib. I call my grandmother. She goes, book it. Set up the time. I'll pay for everything. I'll pay for the air. I'll pay for your stay. I'll pay for the tattoo. Go get it. This is what I do. See, my grandmother wanted me to just experience Japan more than anything in the world, because she was dying. And she didn't let anybody know that she was dying, because she wanted to be treated the same every day. She didn't want anyone's sympathy. She was the Rock of Ages, after all. So I didn't know that when I went to Japan, I would never see her again. But I did. And I hung out and I met Horiyoshi 3. He's an amazing man. And I got tattooed for 3 days. And on the third day, when he finished the tattoo, we went out drinking. It was so much fun. Well, Horiyoshi had set me up with a place to stay in Japan where there was an old lady, much like my grandmother, and she set me up in an upstairs room, and I would come in, I'd say hello to her, I'd go up in my room, and I stumbled home this night completely drunk, and I crashed, and then something happened to me that almost never happened to me. I dreamed. And in that dream, there's my grandmother. She has long, flowing black hair. She's smiling, she's so happy. She takes me by the hand, and she wants to show me something. She walks me into this room, and on the room there's this pedestal. And on the pedestal is this book, Beloved Ones. I look up to her, and I look in her face, and she's smiling from ear to ear, and she motions to me. She wants me to look into this book. It's the book of knowledge. She's got me access. I don't want to because I just want to look at her. But I do. I turn, I look into the book, and I wake up. I know she's dead. The thing that I'd ridiculed my mom for, I've now experienced. I'm floored. I get up, and I walk into the bathroom because it's the only place with a mirror. And I know that my Rock of Ages has now been swept away by the storm, and she's gone. The death has taken her from me. I lift up my shirt, and I look at my tattoo that Horiyoshi's given me, and I see her. My Rock of Ages is with me. She's transformed, like the oven story that my grandfather had given me. And she's there, and she's bringing the light out of the cave, like the Valley of the Light, or Light of Death. She's there for me. I know that when I die, that she's going to be there, smiling, waiting on me. much. That was Kuko Tells Tales, Telling Tales Part 3. We hope you enjoyed it. Trout and I are going to need like 10 minutes to recuperate, and then we'll gladly come out here and talk with everybody. We have books for sale.